Hi and welcome back YouTubers to my channel. For those who are new to my channel right now, I am AspieAnswersAll and I talk about mental health awareness series. This is my life stories with what I go through in my everyday life, as well as being a mentor and a voice for those who hasn't shared their stories as of yet. I'm here to educate you all, inform and support you the best way I can, and giving advice and tips along the way that comes into you on what we're facing, no matter what we face of these difficulties in our lives. I'm here to share what's also on my heart that is personal and close to me, and do tend to share these so that others can know me as well as behind the mask of these pre-diagnoses. I'm not here to judge, and I am hoping for this channel to be a safe place for you all, basically for others that will feel safe, not misjudged, misunderstood, etc. I'm here to share that we all need support and help sometimes in our lives, and that we're not alone, and that there's others out there that may be struggling or going through the same things in some certain degree. We just need to be sure that we can reach out and know that there are people that care for us no matter what. We need to realize that no matter what we face, it's okay to ask for help now and again, but it's not okay to suffer in silence. If you're new and following me right now, I've just been sharing this series of Intrusive Thoughts, which is another mental health series that I wish to clearly address to you all today. I believe in my heart that this needs to be shared, however, as well as all these other mental illnesses and conditions I've shared so far in the piece, due to the lack of understanding and awareness. So that's where I come in to remove the stigma and stereotyping about mental illnesses and more. What I have covered so far in these series of the intrusive thoughts, however, is as follows. What is intrusive thoughts? How do they happen? Why it happens? For the ones that are suffering from intrusive thoughts, which is like a letter to you all with a bit of tips and advice along the way, methods of intrusive thoughts, which is currently now, however, anxiety disorders that are associated with intrusive thoughts, and treatments of intrusive thoughts, and more in the piece later on. In this one, however, as I said, basically of the method of intrusive thoughts, basically it's going to be all about it. While doing these series, as you're aware, that most of them are supposedly in order, basically, so it's go step by step and easy to follow as we go along together on this journey, so it's easy to follow and understand. And it's also readily available for you or your family or friends or whoever that you want to share these videos to. I was addressing the most common anxiety disorder, however, that was involved with intrusive thoughts, and that was the most common one, which is the obsession compulsive disorder, or abbreviate it down to OCD. And there's some others that I did briefly share in that piece. Do feel free to check out that video, which is the different anxiety disorders associated with intrusive thoughts. And for further ado, this one, as I said, is all about methods of intrusive thoughts, and this will entail about types of methods that will be useful to get us through, as well as some techniques of detaching yourself from it all, or removing these intrusive thoughts altogether. Yes, I know I'm hearing you all say it may not be easy. Yes, easier said than done. I will totally agree. Yet again, it's by our choices that we make of our everyday life, at least to get rid of these, as well as other everyday choices we come to face and make in our lives, no matter what it may be. It's all about being positive in ourselves and being positive in our everyday thinking. We're the ones that are obviously in control of everything. Everything we do starts with us and ends us by choice. We should be able to get rid of these thoughts that has stemmed in the first place, no matter what the outcome will be, as we know that with our decisions and choices that we make, that there will always be some dire consequences along the way. Yet it's all about our attitudes, thoughts and behaviours towards ourselves and others that will show what it is worth to fight for. Again, I know this won't be easy for most of us or all of us. As I said, easier said than done. But then again, hopefully while I'm addressing this to you all, basically with my tips and advice I would like to share from me to you, will be of value to you and also of beneficial to you. And especially before about some of these personal life experiences that I've been through, that hopefully you and I can get to know each other behind the mask of all these everyday mental illnesses and conditions, and know that basically by acceptance that we're not perfect, and by acceptance we can relate one way or another. To also be through these acceptances of our past mistakes, basically, not to dwell on them, but to at least maybe accept some of the situations we faced weren't meant to be and weren't for us, to fight alone, to know when to fight and not to fight, and to find the ones that we love and care for to actually help us through the support we need. So, in all further ado, here goes for the start of my series of the method of intrusive thoughts. So do enjoy of what I'm going to share right now. As we know that there are many methods and techniques that are involved in getting rid of intrusive thoughts, as well as anything in our lives that we wish to get rid of, as you're aware. Yet hopefully these tips that I'm sharing with you all will get you up and go and do something about it. Yet as some of these things that I have shared before, again, it's up to you by choice to do something about it. Yet some of the things that I've shared that needs to be ready to accept one of the choices, obviously, by you when you do make that choice. To either change or get rid of it, or just stay the same and actually dwell on it and think that, nothing needs to be fixed or nothing needs to be changed in your life. We know in our everyday life, as we grow up, that basically here on in we do basically need to grow up and mature and actually, learn from our mistakes and everything else that we go through in our lives to share our life stories with others. Okay, basically, with that in mind, though, some things that you feel that doesn't belong in your life, and taking these ideas or opinions to what I'm sharing with you is based on all your own terms of whatever it may be. As I said many times before, as a disclaimer though, however, just to bear in mind, I am no medical doctor. I'm just a normal, everyday young woman, basically sharing her life story that goes through everyday things with mental illnesses, brings that I have shared with you openly with my heart, and that if anything you see or feel isn't right, seek medical professional help and advice if you see or feel the classic signs and symptoms that I have shared. That needs to be addressed quick, smart. Some of the mental illnesses and conditions I go through every day to this day are still present. However, yet again, as a reminder, it's all about how we manage and cope with these everyday struggles by having the right supports from others, as well as for me trying to do as much as I can to manage it on my own if need be, as well as to try and reach out for others of support also. That's where you guys come in as a YouTube family and community. I am hoping that one day that we can all get together and acknowledge that yes, we are not alone, and it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to cry. It's okay to have a meltdown. It's okay that we're angry, but again, never okay to suffer alone. While seeking out and reaching out for help and support, that others will feel that they're not judged, criticised, blamed, etc., as we should be able to relate one way or another. So in order to do, this is the part 2 of the ones that are suffering from intrusive thoughts. So I'm hoping this will be of help and value to all, as mentioned. Okay, so you got to remember first and foremost, before I begin though, however, is got to know or have the right to disassociate with or detach yourself from these intrusive thoughts, as I said in one of my videos on intrusive thoughts. And it's not the thought that comes into our mind, it's all about how we think about them and processing them, as well as if we need to act upon these thoughts or not. Again, it's not about exactly the thoughts that keeping us hostage or holding us back. It's the real fact of us basically ruminating on that thought until we do harm to ourselves or even harm to others when we don't mean to intentionally. You got to know or have the right to dissociate with or detach yourself from these intrusive thoughts that has stemmed off from your anxiety disorder, because every thought obviously stems off from our anxiety disorders of whatever kind it may be of these intrusive thoughts that may have been caused that anxiety go into that state of overdrive of that cycle that I shared earlier briefly in the piece. For example, you can observe them, but you don't have to actually act upon these, because obviously you're better than that and that you can overcome them and more, as I've shared. So tip number 1 is you have absolutely no desire to have these thoughts inside of your mind. Okay, they're completely there, unwanted, uninvited, and that they would come and go unannounced here and there on a regardless of our age and stage in our lives. And to what we're going through. We can detect them to a degree, however, but some of them don't intend to act upon them. I humbly again suggest to seek professional help and advice and attention if need be, if it gets too much for you, of course. Therefore, if these thoughts have nothing to do with your true self, however, and your normal day of living, basically you've got to remember that it's not your fault to have these intrusive thoughts, because again, they come out uninvited and unintentionally stem from whatever happened in the past that was so traumatic to us. And that what I shared before is the classic examples. Could be from when you were being sexually violated from your partner or family members, being domestically abused from your partner or family member, or it could be for some of the unwanted memories from this and more that led some of the ones that suffered from, past experience of their memories that they're trying to get rid of, be it a war situation, be it a real horrible accident, they lost their friend along the way, that led them to have OCD, depression, PTSD, and other form of anxiety disorders that I've clearly illustrated earlier. But as we know that in our normal everyday lives, that these stemming thoughts are usually triggered from something that I just shared. You address them down to your own conscious morals, however, values and beliefs. For example, if you've seen or heard about child abuse, which you find really shocking, and you may experience some horrible thoughts from this related to it, or again, you may have encountered it in your past as a child yourself. It's therefore important to recognize those thoughts to be inappropriate, and you keep having them, and it's taunting, and reminding you of this as it comes to your head or something that triggers off that memory that may or will not be inappropriate given to the context where they arose in the first place, and when they did arise, however. So similarly, these intrusive thoughts which you're currently experiencing are also inappropriate in terms of their content, and that they are completely inappropriate, giving you some form or level of anxiety and distress that in turn will just make you feel worse than you were, and just feel genuine disgust about when these thoughts enters your mind in the first place. And you only go to prove to yourself that there's nothing to worry about in the first place. Like, for example, that you're worrying about viewing that content in mind in a correct way that hasn't even happened yet, or the term of an event, even though many people may think that, like I shared before previously, that, I see things or feel things before it actually happens, and many people may laugh at me, and then sometimes they actually fight back and actually trying to get me back and actually, apologise and say that I was, right in the first place. Okay, but then again, having these intrusive thoughts, however, and then getting affected by them actually reveals that you have a very sensitive personality in your own sense. Okay, the majority of people who experience this type of intrusive thoughts should treat them as background noise and to not tune them into them by ignoring them as best as they can, however. They will be able to dissociate them clearly, but with no conscious thought or consideration. However, they also show that you have a very creative imagination, as we know that the brain is the most powerful, as I said so many times before, as a powerhouse to destroy us or build us up, no matter what it is that we're facing in our everyday lives, as well as our everyday choices we come to face and make. Also, with this brain of ours, though, however, it's just like using it in very disturbing or enlightening ways that is part of an anxious response in our brains, as we know that there are many different sections of our brains that are responsible for different everyday functions. One way that we can look at intrusive thoughts in a positive way is that there are not many positives that I've shared, is that it's a good way in testing in our values and morals and beliefs, however. Tip number 2. It may not even make sense of these intrusive thoughts, basically, if they come out of context or something that we've abstracted ourselves of the many physical world around us and the real world, of course. Again, it's just our brain using our creativity and imagination. Last but not least, tip number 3 is you don't have the control of everything in your thoughts and the situations that come and face every day in your life. Knowing when to and not fight is also important here. Also, I want to share with you all to bear in mind here is that the only at best with these intrusive thoughts that you can influence them based on your general behaviour, and the worst that you can do is to act or actively suppress these thoughts, which is a no-no, as this will make these thoughts worse, not better. Even though it may be better doing this morally and instinctively, yet also doing this in a way can actually affect your everyday brain functions. Classic example here is to alter your natural way of thinking that will cause more anxiety and stress on you, hence why there are so many treatments that I will be addressing that will be of help to manage these intrusive thoughts later on in this piece. The pink elephant, which is also labelled as basically what it is, actively the pink elephant. Similarly, conscious thoughts, not wanting to think about pink elephants, will make you think about pink elephants, which is basically all about these intrusive thoughts that may have arisen and taken over. Since you can now dissociate and detach yourself from these intrusive thoughts, foreseeing them for what they truly are, just that intrusive thoughts, as you will then understand the processes that are involved in this and cause them to sustain them, and that they are purely hypothetical of the thoughts that has arisen due to the catastrophic event and thing that stemmed from the brain of the increased level of anxiety that and fear that has arisen or taken place. Okay, again, they may have no actual importance or credibility, however, you know, mutual response as they come into you, that you have had trauma that you have experienced as a result of having them. For example, a feeling of shock, terror and total disgust mixed into one, so along with all these mixed feelings and emotions that you've misunderstood or misinterpreted for quite some time, as well as misunderstanding to how our brain really works, resulting having significant thinking along with other factors as having a positive personality with extreme thoughts are due to being in a reduced state of the emotional response, that it's a disproportional response, however, which means that is what I mean is that you overreact into a certain situation or certain response involved with these intrusive thoughts. Just like for a holistic example to illustrate to you all, is people that are suffering from OCD and that their constant thought will be just to wash their hands excessively to get rid of all the germs that are everywhere, when in reality we know we can't get rid of all the germs. Okay, another best way to implement a response is to let the thoughts come to you or to your head and say, come at me, and let your thoughts pass naturally by just challenging them. Again, this can be daunting and hard for some of us to do, as you have already done some subconscious thoughts that you're trying to mentally suppress them and realize them by thinking the counteractive thoughts as well. We do have the right to persevere and move forward and not to get stuck in the rut of our intrusive thoughts, and when we do decide to ignore these type of thoughts, that they will then suddenly increase in quantity due to the fact that our brain stops the response to carry out that action or thought in the first place. Don't give in to these thoughts, however. In time, your brain will adjust to the behaviour and the new thoughts that you've introduced, as well as the strengths and frequency that will stigmatise and decrease, while as again your brain is the power source of your intentions, which will then in turn lower your level of anxiety. Once you start immersing yourself in doing more activity that you enjoy, such as music, exercise, spending time with family, friends, the less distractions you will face with the intrusive thoughts, as these will also fade away over time. Just got to remember that each one of us from time to time has experienced some intrusive thoughts in whatever age or stage in life. Remember that the content of your thought is irrelevant, and you must apply the paradox or approach to cope with them. If you try to engage your thoughts in any way, such as reasoning with them, pushing them away, altering your behaviour to stay away from these threatening situations, all these approaches will only serve to make them stronger and more intrusive over time. As with other forms of anxiety, your job is to do the opposite. The steps for overcoming these intrusive thoughts, as I'm going to illustrate right now, is as follows. Number 1, label these thoughts as just intrusive thoughts. That's it. Number 2, remind yourself that these thoughts are automatic and you can safely ignore them. Number 3, accept and follow these thoughts into your mind. Don't try to push them away. Number 4, breathe diaphragmatically until your anxiety starts to go down. And number 5, continue whatever you're doing prior to those intrusive thoughts that came into place in the first place. Try not to, however, engage the thoughts in any way. Number 1. Number 2, try not to push the thoughts out of your mind. Number 3, try not to figure out what your thoughts mean. Number 4, convince yourself that you would never do that. What the thoughts are saying to you. Number 5, change your behaviour so that you avoid the possibility of acting upon your thoughts. And last but not least, for the tips, try to 1. Label your anxiety level and watch it go up and down. Number 2, allow the thoughts to run without hindrance. They will go eventually on their own, as I mentioned before. And number 3, focus on managing your anxiety in the present. Diaphragmatic breathing is especially helpful. This approach, however, can be difficult to apply, but if you can apply it for just a few weeks, you will see an excellent chance that you will begin to see a decrease and the number and intensity of these intrusive thoughts that entered in the first place. Well, basically that ends the intrusive thoughts of managing, or the methods of intrusive thoughts along with the tips along the way. Giving you a like for thumbs up for support. It's showing that you're engaging. Feel free to subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. Feel free to share these videos to your family and friends. Feel free to comment below with anything that I have forgotten. So, and all for do what you love what you do. Until next time, have a great day.